I always recognised myself as an artist since I was really, really little, because I just was, and my mum was, and my granddad was as well. And then when I went to art school, like, they didn't recognise me. I felt like they didn't recognise me as an artist who was already kind of had integrity and kind of knew what I wanted and just needed a little bit of nurturing. This piece is called Tao. I've always been fascinated by geometry, and I can feel geometry really deeply, like it moves my body and everything. And one of the finest geometries that I've been around and experienced like almost all of my life is the 3 stripes of Adidas. And so I was at a rave and I was getting loads of ideas and that and dancing about, and the UV lights were on and there was these Adidas stripes just shining at us. And I just wanted to finally know, like, what is the fundamental of your power? Like, what's going on? And I got this answer in front of us, like a first point, like, or a nothing, and then there's a plus and a minus, so everything comes forth out of that tension of the plus and the minus, which makes something. So it has a centre and 2 sides, but because of its nature, it then collapses back in on itself, which forms a torus, which is like a vortex, which creates all things.
So you had this idea for this piece a while ago. So why do it now in the residency?
Because I was given opportunity, basically. Like, I was given all the resources necessary, time, space, food, like the lot. So there was nothing to distract us from it. So I was allowed to go and pick one of my ideas and produce it.
Is there a commonality between this sort of work and your video works? Are there links between them?
I think there's a huge commonality. I don't know how obvious it is because I haven't experienced all the works in one space at one time. But I'm sure there's a commonality because they're all born in the same way. They're all born from a passion that just kind of pours out of us. And it's the same feeling that's formatted into different things. Sometimes it'll come out and dance and that'll generate a certain thing.
What I'm working on is a couple of different things, it seems. Some images were pulling representations from the media and either drawing them or using a wonderful tool to project them onto drawings or canvases, and then using them as starting points for compositions. So that seems to be one side of what I'm doing. And this is all retrospective, not totally conscious of what I'm doing at the beginning of the process. And the other thing is I seem to be making images with a central male or female character, or it's maybe even a hermaphrodite, or like the feminine anima of the male. I'm not totally sure again what's going on. And they seem to be either existing in each of the pictures in some sort of conflict with nature, or questioning the level of aggression that either exists within nature towards or us to nature.
Is it found images that you found in popular culture, so you've appropriated them?
From newspapers to style magazines, through the internet, through images from other artists, although that's not sort of an explicit thing I do. I generally seem to take them from images in the mainstream media, but also chance. So if I've found some images while I've been walking around the college, and I grabbed an image from one of the other artists on the residency, from some research that he had, and then I'll extrapolate or go off on a sort of a journey from them, sort of to a degree, not so much free associating. Cause
your images, some of them are particularly striking, and they do draw upon images that we see a lot of in the media at the moment. Like behind you on the image, there's I think it's a man praying, and I think he looks like a Pashtun from Afghanistan. And I think for a lot of people might perceive that as being a drawing of Osama bin Laden, just because of our associations with images.
Yeah.
And are you kind of aware of that context for viewing your images? People may bring these narratives to them.
I'm sort of I sort of am, but then I'm also not. I sort of I think there's a bit of an innocence that my mind occupies when it's making them, so that so that it can free itself up to actually make the images. The imagery that he's taken from, he was just involved in a negotiation with a couple of soldiers, so he isn't actually praying, but maybe the cameraman has maybe chosen that image because of the reference to that, and it looks like he's a supplicant or whatever, if that's the right word. And I've picked up on it because of that, but I'm not sure how consciously I was aware, for example, that it might be perceived to be Osama bin Laden, although he's quite fine features and there's quite a feminine look to that fella, and there is to this, so I could see how people would pick up on it. I really like things that are imbued with colour already, so the tape is and I like a limited choice. And I find I have an odd amount of patience for different things. So with drawing, I have very limited patience, but I can make a pattern with coloured tape for weeks on end for some reason, aided by either some lovely tunes or a nice discussion programme on Radio 4. So there's that. I suppose I like equally. I like the form of them. I like the way they come, and I like going up to B&Q and buying them, and you can get them in these sweetie jars. You can get them individually. I quite like all of that. It gives a line. It gives it an edge, and the mass of the colour is quite dense and full. But then when you go up to it, you can see the ridges. You can also paint over it, and you can move and change the line. So it gives you quite an element of freedom. I could just get rid of a line, get rid of an area. Or I could tape on top of it, and with paint, I could do a lighter tone on top of a darker one generally as well, depending on how the matte and the opaqueness of the tape. But I like the fact that it's also electrician's tape.
Although I'm on this residence at the Cooper Gallery for a month, I'm kind of in the midst of a larger project, which started earlier in the year and hopefully will finish at the end of the year in a residency showdown in London. And my summer had been kind of set aside as a period of kind of drawing and planning production. I was invited to do this residence in the Cooper Gallery. It seemed kind of perfect opportunity to expand a bit beyond from working in my flat. The basic format of the project, well, not basic format, but I want to build a sculptural carousel or merry-go-round or theatre revolve. A large revolving disc, basically, about 5 metres across, that has enough load capacity to take, a series of sculpture elements or drawn elements, but also that audience can become participants in within, sitting on or residing within or getting on and moving sections off. I mean, when I finished college 7 or 8 years ago, I came out of drawing and painting, but I really felt I wish I'd done sculpture. So what I started to do and what I still do now is I work as a kind of visual arts technician and learning about building and making, and quite often that would be building temporary structures to house exhibitions for galleries and things like that, and that kind of aspect of making. I also became part of the arts collective Gang Hut, which was one of the original ones, which is over the years to project specifically built architectural structures that then house an event for a public, not just artists. And at the same time my own practice has been developing, and I kind of see those three things kind of moving along together, and there's bits coming in from mine into the technician work and into Gang Hut. And we used to have a lot of anxiety about resolving technician work, Gang Hut work and my work. And then a couple of years ago I just kind of relaxed and just thought it's all kind of like, it's all creative activity. It's a massive part of my work, from how I make it, to playing with words, to building big den-like structures, or phrases like we, us, our. It's quite prevalent in my work because there's a lot of text comes out as well.
On your drawings, I think text features in probably 80% of them.
Yeah.
So I mean, why do you work with text particularly? Is it to infer a narrative, or is it more of an interest in language itself?
I really like titles, and quite sort of, I guess for me, ripe titles. I mean, not totally descriptive, but sort of like the title's as important as the work, and it's maybe the start of a story, or someone mentioned like a bit of like really crude poetry, or even just a couple of words that rhyme, like rotation station is in a really rough sketch. I quite enjoy that kind of little play of language, little rhymes, and then they hopefully, touch wood, over time they turn into a bigger title, which is what usually happens. there's also the kind of the other strand, which is the more sculptural, pictorial art element, if you like, which I'm more primarily concerned with at the moment in this space. So like all around here, there's bunches of drawings and collages and fragments of text and ideas. I'm trying to build up quite a large bank of material that will either become source for sculptures or might actually end up residing within sculptural elements upon this revolve. So I guess I do like working big. I enjoy the physicality of working big and the kind of the challenge of dealing with scale, and even being here making big drawings, I'm enjoying the kind of the scale of that.